Any gamer who finished the Mass Effect trilogy knows what it feels like to spend hundreds of hours fighting only to be rewarded with an insulting, lazy conclusion. Mass Effect 3 isn't the only offender, though. The gaming industry is chock full of titles that completely dropped the ball in the final act, tacking god-awful endings onto otherwise memorable adventures. Well, get ready to relive those less-than-fond farewells, because we're about to take a look at some of the most insulting video game endings ever.
That's the ending? Are you serious? Whose idea was that? Yours? Or yours? Oh, bad move, guys. NeoGAF is gonna eat you alive!
Metal Gear Solid 2. Metal Gear Solid 2 is all twists and turns, from swapping out badass protagonist Solid Snake for emo shampoo model Raiden, to learning that the leader of the terrorist group you're fighting is a clone of Solid Snake. If that's not kooky enough, it turns out your commanding officer and girlfriend are AIs, part of a group called the Patriots, who reveal that your mission has been a twisted VR program designed to test how much they could control how people think and act.
Colonel, I just remembered something.
What?
That I've never met you in person. Not once.
Confused? That just means series creator Hideo Kojima earned his paycheck this week. The game's epilogue is even stranger. Snake learns that all of the Patriots died 100 years ago, which is certainly more than a little head-scratching. If that sounds like a premise that nobody could follow through on, that's because it was. The series more or less abandoned this plot thread, and Metal Gear Solid 4 actually retconned 2's ending as a red herring, with Snake commenting, "12 founders who've all been dead for 100 years, give me a break." This made almost everything you did in Metal Gear Solid 2, and the headaches its plot likely gave you, totally pointless. Note to aspiring game designers everywhere, if you're going to blow minds with a crazy twist ending, you can't just flip the script 4/5 of the way through your series. Asura's Wrath. The best downloadable content, or DLC if you're nasty, tells a whole new story, lets you play as new characters, or simply gives you something new and fun to do in a game you love. The worst kind, on the other hand, is like the DLC for Asura's Wrath, which comes as a result of the developers never actually finishing the freaking story and instead making you dish out extra dough for the full package. The main chunk of Asura's Wrath ended with Asura beating the big bad and returning to his daughter Mithra. But just to be a jerk, one of Asura's ex-partners, Olga, tries to kill Mithra until a creature called the Golden Spider appears, kills Olga, takes over Mithra's body, and calls itself
the True God. The embodiment of the wheel of life, the spinner of all mantra.
Right.
At this point, the game does what any story should do after introducing a new evil to conquer. It ends.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
That's right, Wrath simply fades to black, eventually throwing up a screen that says it's a story for another time. It's a safe bet that literally every single player disagreed.
But I want it now!
Capcom chose to release the rest of the story as a $7 DLC, making gamers pay for what they should have gotten on day one. No matter how cool the real ending is, this kind of sneaky nickel and diming feels like a slap in the face to gamers everywhere. Deus Ex: Mankind Divided. To put it simply, Deus Ex: Mankind Divided's action-packed first act promises a big payoff that never comes in Act 2. Nobody could fault you for expecting more gameplay following your takedown of terrorist leader Marchenko. He's the first boss, after all, and it only takes around 15 hours to reach him. Plus, at this point, a ton of plot lines have yet to be resolved, so players expecting the game to introduce a new baddie aren't wrong. Nope, not Deus Ex. Marchenko may be the first boss, but he's also the final boss. And in truth, that 10-minute plot dump of an ending is mostly sound and fury, signifying nothing. Side stories and major characters are seemingly forgotten after hours of getting built up as major players. It doesn't feel like a complete chapter in an epic series, but rather like reading a book whose second half is smudged to illegibility. Super Mario Bros. 2. It's all but impossible to pull off an "it was all a dream" ending without looking like you got lazy and didn't bother to write a real final chapter. Super Mario Bros. 2, the beloved NES classic, is no different. Its ending is nothing more than a cop-out.
Oh no!
After beating the main villain, Wart, by force-feeding him vegetables until he croaks, the liberated citizens of Subcon parade his corpse around while singing the praises of their hero and his friends. Then our perspective jumps to Mario, who's dreaming up the celebration at Subcon. That's right, the whole game was just rumblings from the subconscious of a vertically challenged plumber who probably pulled a Garfield and ate too much lasagna before bed. Fallout 4. As an open-world experience, Fallout 4's ending doesn't actually end the game. You can keep completing quests to your heart's desire after that main quest's definitive ending. The problem is that it's terrible, and less satisfying than, well,
some 200-year-old Salisbury steak.
In the game, you can join any of 4 factions and pit them against each other. Your choice doesn't actually change the ending, however, just the quests you undertake to get there. No matter what route you take, your son Sean, now the old and salty leader of the science-obsessed Institute, dies. Then you get a black and white cutscene about moving on and how the wasteland is your home now. Oh, and by the way,
War never changes.
in case you forgot, perhaps Bethesda ended Fallout 4's main story this way to suggest that the sole survivor's story wasn't over. But it still feels like a letdown to put 100+ hours into your quest only to wrap it up with, well, guess life goes on. If we wanted that, we'd turn the game off and deal with, you know, real life. Battletoads.
So today, we're gonna take a look at Battletoads. Rocket!
Any old school gamer will tell you that Battletoads was perhaps the most difficult, most frustrating, and most 90s game they've ever played. Those who actually beat it have another reason to be frustrated. Their reward for doing so was exactly nothing.
You get nothing! You lose! Good day, sir!
After you beat the Dark Queen, she simply escapes to the shadowy margins of the galaxy to recoup her losses. Basically, you briefly humiliate the villain after spending untold hours crashing in the damn turbo tunnel. And to top it all off, you don't even get so much as a parade in your honor or anything. All that happens is your spaceship's pilot collects the Battletoads and the princess they saved, and that's literally it. It's the equivalent of saving thousands of people from a burning building and being rewarded with a dollar bill and a handshake. Except in that scenario, you can buy a scratch-off ticket and potentially win thousands. Beating Battletoads, though? Nothing. Your reward is nothing. Zero. Zilch. Nada. Nothing. Thanks for watching. Click the SVG icon to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Plus, check out all this cool stuff we know you'll love too.